Hello, and we're finally back. Firstly, a game to review because there was European football with the first legs. Here's the scores from the Champions League, the Europa League, and the Conference League. And of course, we'll take a closer look at the Premier League team, Brighton, who visited Tromsø, and it finished Tromsø nil, Brighton nil. It's a bit of a lame result to start the season for Brighton. Tromsø are, of course, in the middle of their season, third in Norway, and perhaps they just looked a bit sharper compared to Brighton, who haven't played a competitive game since the end of last season. That's 3 months ago. Tromsø were compact and sometimes even threatened on the counter-attack. Brighton, who are without Kaudu Mitoma as well as Yankuba Minte, who could be off, was toothless. The game did see a debut for Luka Vuskovic from the start, and Zadok Johanna made a brief cameo from the bench. Now, they did draw the away leg of what's a two-legged tie, and so they should still be all right in context of actually qualifying. But the performance was a bit of a concern for Fabian Hürzeler. They do need to rejuvenate that front line. They just look so, as I said, toothless in attack. So that first leg's 0-0, and the second leg on Thursday. But the Premier League is back. There's 10 games, so we'll whiz through. And the predicted lineups are from the Fantasy Football Scout, and the team news is from Premier Injury Table. It starts on Friday at 8 p.m. on Sky Sports as Arsenal play Coventry. Now, Arsenal look so good in the Community Shield. They beat Man City 3-0. But now it's down to business, and I predict them to retain their title. They have to win games like this, and they want to do it convincingly. This is the early part of the season where you build momentum, win games, and aren't distracted by other competitions. They've been granted the perfect game to start. Championship winners Coventry, who I've got finishing 19th. They play their first game in the Prem in a quarter of a century. It's going to be very tough for Coventry. But the road to 40 points starts now. If they want to stay up, they'll have to get points in games like this. But none of their fixtures will quite be as hard as this one in particular. Arsenal have no excuses. They need to win. Now, perhaps a positive for Coventry is that a fair few Arsenal players haven't played much in pre-season due to going far in the World Cup. But they did look sharp in Cardiff last weekend. On the other hand, Coventry's unit has had a bit more time to get ready in pre-season. Still, I think Arsenal are heavy favourites for a reason. Don't really see too many surprises here. Next one, the TNT game is on Saturday at 12:30. Hull host Man United. Playoff winners Hull, who I have bottom. They have their first Prem game in 9 years. Sergej Jakirovic taking his first game in charge in this league. They don't have too many World Cup players, so guys will be fresh. However, a lot were bought late into pre-season, and so only had the odd game in black and amber and might not be fully integrated for a couple of weeks. Hull's packed injury list makes a tough game against a hard opponent even more difficult. United finished last season really well in third, and everything I said about the last game can be copied for this one. Hull will find it difficult, but if they want to stay up, they need results in games like this. For United, who I think will come fourth, anything but victory is unacceptable. An upset here feels a little bit more likely than at the Emirates because Hull are playing at home and Man U still aren't quite as good as Arsenal, but only a bit more likely. Away win here, surely. Okay, 3 games at 3 p.m. First is Everton Palace. I think Everton, who were 13th last season, will be favourites at home. They're chasing the elusive prize of European football. Palace were in 15th last season. Quite hard to call this one for teams separated by 2 places last campaign, but I'm more optimistic about Everton this season, having them 7th. Palace for me will find it tough, and I've got them in 17th. But let's see how they get on. Everton don't feel the finished article yet and would like a few more signings, so don't quite judge them even if they don't win this one. However, I think that they probably will. Okay, Ipswich Sunderland also at 3. Ipswich's first game in the division since returning. Gary O'Neill's debut in the dugout as well. Unlike the other 2 promoted sides playing against Champions League teams, Ipswich, who went up as runners-up last season, who I do have 18th, have a more simple task. They host Sunderland, who came 7th, but I expect to drop a bit to 11th. It'll be the first chance to scope how they can compete at this level, and we'll see how Ipswich do. For Sunderland, they'll want a positive start. A lot of people saying could be getting second season syndrome, especially with Europe. Well, Europe hasn't started yet, so no excuses. They look to get off to a good start against the promoted side. Both teams really then can send a message. Will be an interesting game, I think. Really tight one this, or it could be Nottingham Forest, who I expect to come 16th again, host Leeds, who I think will drop from 14th to 15th. That's the last 3 p.m. meetup. Both these teams were worried early on last season, but steered well clear of the relegation zone. Oliver Glasner, another manager to have his first game in charge. And these teams, they look quite well matched. Nothing spectacular, but I think both will have a solid season. Not really be bothered by relegation, but nothing too spectacular, as I said. Pretty hard to call this opening game as well, because I think Leeds slightly better of the two. Forest have home advantage, but Forest first game under a new manager. Pretty close one. Pretty tough one to call this. Really interesting one, 5:30 at Sky Sports. Could be the most interesting of the whole weekend, actually. Brentford Spurs. New season for Brentford. They're again trying to go for a top half finish, maybe even Europe. It will be tough, and this is a very tricky test for them. For Spurs, they're hoping to avoid the disaster of last season and to feel like a confident top 6 sides can win tough away games like this. Now, Brentford have looked good in pre-season. Most of their team knows each other. Whereas for Spurs, it is a new era, a lot of new signings, even though the manager technically took up charge last season. Few Spurs players were at the World Cup as well, so had a limited pre-season. And for Brentford, this might be the best time to face Tottenham, as they will take a little bit to gel. Now, tactically, Brentford's long ball has caught out Spurs' high press before, and Spurs will need to make sure they don't get sucked in. A cool head needed for the visitors here. Really interesting game because Tottenham, one of the biggest question marks of the new season. Okay, on to Sunday. 2 games at 2 p.m. Thanks to the Conference League, Brighton's trip to Aston Villa is moved to this time slot on Sky Sports. Villa, of course, losing 2-1 to PSG in the Super Cup, and they have a lot of quality on the treatment table. But Brighton didn't look good in that 0-0 draw at Tromsø. Now look, that wasn't a freezing artificial pitch, and they'll be back on home turf for this one. Brighton looked toothless. Welbeck's off to Chelsea. Mitoma and Minter's out. Minter might be gone too. And without a good attack, it's very hard to win football matches. I still rate their team, though, and have them coming 8th again, compared to Villa, who I think will drop from 4th to 6th. 2 European sides clashing, and that should be high quality, but both are in a bit of a strange place, where it's very unclear what squad they'll have in 2 weeks' time, and that chaos won't help them on the pitch. The normal 2 p.m. game, also on Sky Sports, is between Man City and Bournemouth. Now, City's new era started with a 3-0 loss in the Community Shield. I have them coming 2nd again. Bournemouth, who I think will drop from 6th to 9th, have their own new era with Marco Rosa. It's obviously a really tough start, especially with a packed treatment table. And look, City, their standards are high. They'll be anticipating another title race. And that means you have to win games like Bournemouth at home. And of course, Bournemouth, when you're a team going for Europe, you have to try and win points off the big boys. Big game at 4:30 on Sky Sports. Newcastle hosting Liverpool. The marquee clash of the weekend for sure. 2 new managers, Matthias Jaisler and Andoni Iraola. Newcastle will hope their new look side can still bare their teeth, especially at home. But if Liverpool are serious, then St James's Park is where they can prove it. So many teams hunting the title come a cropper here, and Liverpool, like City, perhaps not fancied to win the league, but they'll be, at the start of the season in particular, looking to fight for the title, looking for aim for the title. Newcastle coming 12th last season. I think they'll drop to 13th. Liverpool, I think they'll recover from 5th to 3rd. Both of these teams are exciting, entertaining, and slightly chaotic. So it should be a really interesting match. Monday, 8 p.m, Sky Sports, Fulham host Chelsea. More new managers, this time Alvaro Arbeloa against Xabi Alonso. I think Fulham, who came 11th, will come 12th this time. Chelsea, who came 10th last season, I have them improving to 5th. But Fulham are always a tricky team to beat, especially at Craven Cottage. And it does make you feel, if Xabi Alonso is exciting, as people say he is, many Chelsea fans, very excited, very optimistic. It should start here. Not just Alonso making his debut, a lot of new signings again for Chelsea. Morgan Rogers will probably make his debut. So we'll have to wait to see how that new team clicks. For Fulham, a lot of quiet optimism about Arbeloa and their own new signings, although a lot of them are doubts for this game. Oh, that's all done. We'll know so much more in 72 hours, but the anticipation is so high. The excitement for the next 33 weekends and a few midweeks in there, plus the other competitions, just constant football again. You missed it. I missed it. We all missed it. How do you feel if you are a Brighton fan? 0-0 draw away to Tromsø. Any Tromsø fans here as well? I'll be excited if I get a comment from there. And how do you think your team did? Be interesting from fans of both teams. And for the whole Premier League, are you excited to be back? What do you think of your Game Week 1 fixture? Are you confident for the weekend? And are you confident for the season in general? And if you're not a Premier League fan, how is your team started the season? A Premier League starting quite late. Most of the other leagues are underway, both the lower leagues and the other leagues on the continent in Scotland as well. Oh, wow. Arsenal Coventry to start. An exciting game. And we just have to wait for it to all go down now. See you soon.